So now we're at a point where we need to get a lot of these changes, the things that we've done in Operations Center to prepare us for the season or this next task into our displays. So we have a few different options as we think about bringing our setup type files into our displays in our machine. So we can do a setup file creator, we can do data sync, and we can do a work plan as our three really common ways to move data back and forth between our displays and Operations Center. So in this video, we're actually going to do the setup file method for pulling that information into our display. So to begin with, I'm gonna go to Setup and go to Setup File Creator. So within Setup File Creator, I'm going to say this is our traditional method that we've used for a lot of years. So whether it was our 2600s and 2630s, we used a lot of different aspects there for that data to pull into our displays. So we're going to actually use this one first. So right here, it's going to actually pop up of, hey, if we haven't used a work plan before, to go ahead and try it. But we are going to do that in another video. So within our setup file, we are going to start by determining what display we have. So are we a Gen 4 or G5? Are we a 2630, 2600, or even down to an 1800 if we want to bring in those farms and fields and guidance lines. So for this one, we're actually going to say it's a Gen 4 4640 or even a G5. That is the display I have here besides me. But whether it's the G5 or the 2630, really going to follow the same process. So we'll begin by giving it a file name. I'm going to call this 2025 Spring. And from here, we are creating a new one. If we did have one that we had just created and we need to edit it, we can select Create from Existing, grab it out of our list, and then we can go in and edit anything that we would want to add or remove from that file. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Start. And if you notice here at the top, we just kind of work across. So right now in land, this is where we're going to select our farms, our fields, guidance lines, boundaries, that sort of information that we may want in our displays. So if we've done a good job now cleaning up our client farm field list, our guidance lines, our boundaries, if we've done a really good job cleaning all that up, I might just want to select everything and then move on to equipment. Because I know if I have a good farm and field list, if I have good guidance lines and I don't need to go through and select all of them or deselect any of them, I can just check that box and then move on. Otherwise, if there's things I need to eliminate, so if I scroll down, I'll say this planting one guidance line, I don't want it. I can uncheck that. I can uncheck this track one also. And this is all laid out in a field by field aspect. So as we go down, we see an alphabetical list of our farms and fields, like we have in maps and every other aspect too. So you can go down this list and find what you would want to eliminate. Another option here is if we just said, I don't want any guidance tracks at all. If I uncheck that, now I will not save any guidance tracks to any of my, for any of my fields with this setup file. Same thing, if I wanted guidance tracks for everything but no boundaries, I could go that way and select and move forward. You know, a lot of times historically with the 2600, 2630s, we may not have wanted boundaries in there, so we didn't have swath control challenges. But for now, we're just going to say we're going to save everything as part of this setup file. Other thing you can do on the left, if you do have multiple clients, say you do a little bit of your own farming and some commercial application also, and you may have a big client list. If you only wanted to save the stuff for maybe your farm acres, because this is your planting tractor, whichever, you could go through the filter, select whatever clients you need, same with the farms and the fields, and only those will populate in the list. So that's a couple ways we can use the filters on the left side. If we are doing AutoPath from rows, we would select this here. If I wanted the most recent seeding, based off of the source data we'd want to populate, we would see AutoPath from rows right here. Same thing with AutoPath from boundaries. And then if we were doing variety locator for harvest, we could select our corn and soybeans, or select everything from a variety locator if we're saving this file to go to the combine or the harvester in that standpoint. So for this one, we have what we need saved. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. That's going to move us into equipment. With equipment, I have a habit that I like saving all of my machines and implements on all of my setup files. So with Gen 4 and G5, it's much easier if we don't have one of our products or one of our pieces of equipment in the display, we can still add them easily, not a big deal. But if we've taken some time to manage our offsets and dimensions of our implements and our machines, we do want these profiles in our displays. So I'd rather have these saved on all of them than be missing something when we get to our machine. Same thing on a 2630. Every year we seem to run into an issue that for planting, we saved our planting tractor and our planter. But now say we pulled that display out and we go put it in our 4830 sprayer to go spray. If I didn't save that sprayer in my setup file, I have to come back to Operations Center, resave the setup file with the sprayer, and then actually go back to that sprayer with that new setup file. The other only option is to delete all the data off of that display, and then we don't have any of our original machines or implements on there. So that's why, to me, it's a good habit just to save all of our machines and implements. At some point, if we noticed here of, hey, I'm missing an implement, and it's not in our list, you can go to Add Equipment, and that'll take you to the equipment aspect of setup, and we can go through and add that machine. All right, so we're good with equipment. Let's go next, and here we're gonna have products. So like before, or we've done in a previous video, we saved and updated our varieties, all of our chemicals, our fertilizers that we have for the year. So we know this is a good list if we've taken the time to already do that. So because we took that time, I'm gonna check this box, I'm gonna select my tank mixes I need, and I'm ready to go. Now, how do we not clean this up? We'd have to go through and scroll down and have potentially a lot of chemicals that we would need to add or remove from our saved setup files. So like I say, a little bit of time, having a good, accurate products list will make this part easier as we go through our machines. All right, products are good. Let's go next to operators. So any operators we want to save to the display, we can select them all. We don't have to have operators. It is optional to have an operator in the machine, but if you do want them, we can have them here and go ahead and save them. Now a summary, this is gonna give us exactly that. How many fields are we saving? How many boundaries? So right here I can tell 2 of my fields I don't have boundaries for. We have 61 total guidance lines, we have 11 autopath lines. But if I was trying to go to the combine with this file, I can see here I have 0 variety locator files. That's an issue. So I could come back into land. Okay, well, I do need my corn files. And now when I come back to summary, I have 2 variety locator files for corn. So good reference point, same thing with products, all this information. If there's something you're trying to save and you see zeros, you did something wrong in the saving aspect of it. So good quick summary of what we're actually saving for the machine. From here, I'm gonna hit create file, and then we have 2 different options. So if we have our machines, our displays, they're connected with an MTG, and we're doing wireless data transfer, data sync, stuff like that, I could send this file directly to the display in that aspect. So right here, this display I have next to me, it's actually named for my truck. I'm gonna go ahead and create and send that file. Now, if I come into my display that's powered up, here at the top where we are powered up, we'll see a little drop down come down to show that it has been received, and there it is. So from here, we need to import this file into our display. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So with this G5 and a G5 Gen 4, it's gonna be the same process. I'm gonna come into System, I'm gonna come into File Manager, and we're actually gonna see that there's one file that has not yet been received. So we'll select that Import from Received Files, go Next, and there's that 2025 Spring Setup file. So that file below it, that's a file from previous. It is still there. We can select it, we hit the trash can and delete that one out of there. Doesn't hurt anything being there. I want to get too wrapped up about it being in that list, but now I can go next. There's a variety locator information, and I could hit import, and that setup file has been brought into our display. I'm going to cancel out of there for now. So our other option then is a USB stick for saving it to. So if I came to my files application, so I'm gonna go more, files, then we'll select the setup list for our setup files. All right, so there's work data, so those are files coming in like maps and stuff like that. If we go to our setup files, here's this setup file we just created. So if I need to save this to a USB stick, my flash card, if it's a 2600, I'll select this file. I'm going to go to download and I'm going to select convert to John Deere Data Manager. Now that I download it, here on my computer, I'm going to get this little pop-up at the top right. Depending on your computer, your operating system, it might be at the top right, it might be at the bottom, just however your downloads work on your computer. So with this, the John Deere Data Manager tool will open. If I had a USB stick plugged into my computer, I could select that drive of the stick, hit transfer, and it saves that setup file to this USB stick. So we'd have a transfer has completed. I can close out of this, pull my USB stick out. When I plug it back into my display, I'd go back into menu, file manager. And at this point, I would import from that USB device. Where I don't have one plugged in right now, it's not going to see one. But right here is where we would populate that information. We could go next and import just like we did with the wirelessly sent file. So that's a setup file. Very simple, straightforward, but this is what we need to do when we pull all this information from our operations center into our displays.